Okay, guys. Had a couple technical difficulties. Let's see if it starts up this time. And here we are. We are live and covering the Stampeders against the Argonauts in this preview. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. So Vernon Adams goes through his progressions well. Rhymes' pass interference penalty was a show of effort rather than being the kind of stupid aggression that we see in the Ottawa Red Blacks. Just as an aside, so that a return viewer knows my perception of the differences. So Rhymes, he was trying to make a play. Was it a mistake? Technically, yes, it was a mistake, but it wasn't out of just selfish vindictiveness that we see with the Red Blacks. So I didn't dislike that kind of aggression. It was just an attempt to make a play, just to be clear. Now, I like how the Stampeders mixed up their run and pass attack on offense, but it's not that the pass attack was competent. The defense had a late hit on their old passer, and that happens oftentimes with these kind of relationships where the old passer comes back to play against the team that he used to play for. But it did not look especially late when I saw it, but it was a penalty nonetheless. I won't judge their discipline poorly because of this. So there was two instances where, okay, is total football looking at it as any penalty is bad? Not when the Stampeders do it, because they were purposefully trying to pressure the quarterback, or they were trying to make a play on the ball to make sure a receiver didn't score a touchdown. And I have to say the Stampeders are more functional than the Red Blacks. I think they have a better team than the Red Blacks in general, which is a controversial statement because I think a lot of people think that Ontario has a better team, but they really don't, at least in my opinion. Now, I'm going to have to go to my stream here, so bear with me a little bit. Okay, so 0 views, that's fine. So we can just move on ahead without worrying about there being anything that I have to answer to in terms of a question. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on. Vernon Adams can scoot on a scramble, and he made a couple particularly poor interceptions. And there was a third that was called back that I noticed that was just very egregious. I mean, he was saved by the bell. I think that the defenders were offsides. Well, it was a clean interception, you know. The announcers really like the guy, so I guess he's played well in previous seasons. But despite being a hometown hero of sorts, I couldn't imagine the fans enduring those kind of interceptions for too long without sharpening some knives. Their defense played well, which afforded the offense to put up some points despite some egregious errors against the Tiger Cats. Adams had a pretty long pass to end the third quarter, but how much should we blame the new system and the wind when he plays poorly? I have some major concerns with that quarterback play in game one, but he might improve in this following week. I really like the Stampeders defense, though. They let the fourth quarter get away from them, though, and that does bother me. I'm not confident that they will compete well this season, in fact. But the Stampeder defense is good at pass defense, but they really did collapse, and I don't think they'll be able to pressure Arbuckle as well. At least that is what I project personally. Vernon is focusing on only 3 of his receiving targets, and I cannot say that I like this either. The running attack is giving him balance, but he's not exploiting it. He's just currently a liability despite how lauded he is by the broadcasters during game 1. Anyways, the Stampeders have potential if Vernon can get his game right. However, they dominated a bad team. So let's go ahead and look at the statistics real quick for you guys. If we could move on to the next slide. And here you see the rushing attack. It's I'm just not so sure that this rush attack will surface this time against the Argonauts, but it did against Hamilton Tiger Cats. And I like the Tiger Cats, but I don't think they're a great team. I don't think I think they have a lot of potential to grow. This is just not their season. I mean, whereas the Red Blacks might even be better than the Tiger Cats, but they're going to perform below their potential, if that makes sense to you guys. And you see the passing is just suffering over there, and you see it's going to show up in this game if the run game is contained by the Argonauts, and I think the Argonauts can do just that. So let's move on to the Argonauts, shall we not, since we've been talking about them. They played relatively well against the strongest team in the league out of the gates. That team is the Alouettes, in my opinion. The Argonauts were unable to run effectively. Their passer did well in the sense that Arbuckle will throw better in this next match. That's how I just view things. He did well enough against a great defense, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm not approving of him fixating on those three receivers, with, if you see right there, with Coxie and Ungerer being too essential to his game. What am I worried about? Well, there's no credible run attack with the Argonauts, and its targeting of wideouts is narrow. This means that the defense will be able to fixate on pass defense and maybe pass rush more freely on him. I just don't think the Stampeders can do it against Arbuckle or the Argonauts, because I think the Argonauts have a good pass protection too. The Argonaut defense, and speaking of defense, the Argonauts are good at pressuring and picking off quarterbacks, and they'll have easy pickings today, in my opinion, against Vernon. I'm surprised that this team is not favored to win, and it might just be that Vegas just doesn't understand Canadian football, because they're just looking at the stats. They're seeing that one team lost and the other team won, and they didn't actually watch the game. They didn't evaluate the players. They don't know the height and weight. They didn't see the interactions with, maybe the Tiger Cats aren't that good, or maybe the Alouettes are great. They don't think about this. And I don't understand their Vegas logic on the matter, because despite all that I've said about the Stampeders play, the Argonauts just had Alouettes problems, to be blunt, last week. It wasn't a them problem. It was an Alouettes problem that they had to deal with. And the Stampeders had more of the leniency involved with playing the Tiger Cats. So let's move on to the stat slide, just so that you can have a view of it. I do talk down stats, right? I don't talk about stats as often when I can watch the game and I can evaluate the game, because not every incompletion is a bad incompletion. Not every completion is an accurate pass, because sometimes people extend for balls, right? But you see that despite it all, the pass attack was able to generate yards, despite being overly narrow in their targeting and unable to have a balanced rushing attack. Arbuckle, for his part, was still good enough and will likely have a bounce back game against the Stampeders. It is true that the Argonauts lack this offensive balance and they hyperfixate. It's just that the Stampeders aren't good enough. The defensive linemen are going to be licking their chops and will be hitting Vernon more often than you'd think. And I just do not see him overcoming the Argonauts defense, which does seem hyper competent, and I will go ahead and say elite. And that sounds pretty crazy, since they were pretty swept out the door at home against the Alouettes. Nonetheless, this is how I feel in terms as an evaluator. So let's go ahead and get down to it. The Argonauts were not favored to win this game. I say take the points, because they're going to be able to win the game outright. Take the points. The Argonauts, as an underdog, are going to win. And they're just going to win outright. So, sorry about the choppy performance this time. I'm kind of running on fumes here, but at least my previous live recording went pretty well, the first one that I ever did. And we have another recording going for the other game today. So let's go ahead and finish this one off.